Hello, welcome to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We are on the goingboldmedia.com. Everyone, please check out all of our hosts and our wonderful guests that are on there, feeling empowered. That's what we want to do here on Going Bold. So we are doing that today on the Link to Expert Goodreads Authors Corner. I am just one of your hosts. I'm Cece Schatz. I'm the doyenne of relationship building, and I have my good friend Joanne Weiland. Joanne, tell us a little bit about you.
Joanne Weiland of Weiland When You Can Fly, the founder of Link to Expert. And this whole thing was created just to do what we're doing even today, expose different people's expertise. And today we have Laura Kepner. She's an amazing author of several different types of books. So we are excited to bring her on to the show today.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, Laura. Welcome.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
We are happy that you are here for sure. We had a little technical glitch coming, so we are just so thankful that you are here with us today. And our title of our show is Keep Climbing Your Ladder, but Don't Step on Your Fingers. And that's the name of your book, is it not?
No, I put that because it's kind of the process, and I meant don't step on others' fingers. Don't.
Oh.
It's just the process I think we all need to take when we are on our journey. Mindful of others on the journey as well. And that's basically.
And I can tell you firsthand, when I met Laura many, many years ago, I guess 10 years ago, something.
Probably.
That she really does help people on their journey to keep climbing. For an example, she had a class at the library. I don't know if you remember, writer's class, Laura.
Yeah.
And you would have us each come in and everybody would share either the chapter or whatever they wrote between the period that we met with. I think it was monthly. And you would help them, and all of us would help them, edit their content, give us suggestions and everything like that. And it was really, really fascinating because I had never written a book at that time. But the really, really sweet part was she would also allow me to come, that I wasn't writing a book, but I would create these flyers about Link to Expert, and I would pass them out, copies of them. And I would ask everybody in the group, what do you think I'm trying to tell you? And it was fascinating. Nobody knew what I was trying to say. That's why it's so important to have a group like Laura's, because you think you're crystal clear and that your message, everybody understands it. And the stuff they come out with, you're like, oh my goodness. And then you guys would help me critique it and make it, understandable of what I really wanted to say. And to me, it was priceless. So I just want everybody to know, Laura, not just help me, but help so many people in so many ways, with their writing, with their poetry, and to expose it too. Because the other thing is, it doesn't matter if you write all this stuff if nobody knows it. And she has done so many things. So I think maybe I started with that, but I also thought of the other night I was at a book club. It's called Words and Wine. And I was telling everybody that Laura's going to be on the show. And this one lady, Lauren, that you probably know, she actually said, oh my goodness, she said, when I first moved to Tampa, I think it was in 2013, she said, I was part of this. She worked for the government, but the city government, and she was supposed to give a tour of Safety Harbor. Well, she just moved here, so she didn't really know it. So she quick read Laura's book, but she also invited Laura to go with on the tour to create. She said, I asked her to use colorful adjectives about, the different places in Safety Harbor. So I just wanted you to know that too, because that's what I mean. Laura's just the kind that she's flexible. She wants to create win-wins for everybody and help them keep climbing. So I just want you to know that Laura, is really truly a giver. And what gets you started with helping people write?
Wow. I just believe in connection. I think that's one of the most important parts of my life, is being connected to others. And I'll tell you a quick little story. When I was learning to, now being a writer, anybody can say they're a writer, but if you don't have the tools down, and this is for yourself, not only for your readers, you need to have a toolbox. You need to know what you're doing. And the latter, basically, I heard George Saunders say this. He was in Tampa several years ago at the AWP conference. And he said, listen, Stephen King and I, we're probably at the top of this ladder. And all of us are you're all on rungs. You're aiming to the top for the top. You may be on rung one, you may be almost to where we are, but we're all on the same ladder. And that really hit me. I thought, that's so true. We all need to encourage each other to get, now that top may not be Stephen King. You may not want that. You may want a different audience and a different readership. But we're all on a ladder together. So that's what I meant by that. And there are others out there who will try to step on your fingers. Unfortunately, ego, I've seen a lot of ego in any creative venue. There is a lot of ego that gets in the way sometimes. And we just have to be aware of that and keep, be confident. I was in a class learning to write. I didn't know much about it, and I so wanted to write. It was in Tacoma, Washington, and the teacher, he got up and told us all, there were maybe 50 people in the room, and he said, look at all of you. I doubt even one of you is ever going to see a book published, but let's get on with the class. And that made me so angry. I saw this older man in front of me, his shoulders just slumped. Aww. And when that man left, I don't know what possessed me, but I stood up and I said, don't listen to him. We're all here because we're working. Anyway, I gave everybody a pep talk. And that was kind of the beginning, because I saw even how teachers can bring people down when we all need to be helping each other. So that's
yeah,
right.
And you are such an encourager. You really are. Every time I see you, and I mean, there's so many things that I want to talk about that we've done together, but also all the things you've done, where I wasn't involved. So where would you like to start? I was wondering if you wanted to have a specific area that you'd like to share first.
Oh, wow. Well, I got here in 2008. I can't believe it's been that long. I still feel like we're newbies to the area because we're always discovering things. But we found Safety Harbor where we live, and it just felt like anything could happen here. It felt there was a magic spark or something, and I couldn't find a job. I mean, the doors kept closing. My mom used to say, if a door's shutting in your face, you're going through the wrong door. You need another door, need another path. And my husband said, listen, we didn't bring a lot of furniture because we came from Seattle, long trip. And he said, we don't need furniture right away. Why don't you just write? That's what you want to do. So I had that door open and I went with it because I thought this is my chance. And I started writing for pennies at click things, on like eHow. And there were websites that would pay you pennies per click. And I learned, and then I got involved with Bonnie Walters with Destination Tampa Bay magazine. Yes. She gave me a chance. And that's another thing. We need to give each other chances,
Yes.
If somebody has a dream.
In her magazine quite often.
Yeah, it was an amazing opportunity. And her editor helped me when I made a mistake. So, that was kind of the start. And then I gained the confidence needed to work on projects. And my first book publication was in 2013 with my friend Warren Furshine. And we got to write a book about Safety Harbor, the town that we love. So that was the beginning. Yeah.
But that was so cool too, that you learned how to collaborate with Warren to create the book, because I think a lot of people don't understand how challenging even that is, because you might have one idea and he, in this case, Warren, would have a different idea, and then to be able to really like talk it out and be able to figure out what do you really, what format, what, type of story about Safety Harbor, fiction, historical, or, like a little bit more jazzy. So I'm sure that in itself was even a lesson, climbing the ladder.
We were good friends before that because he joined the writers group, and that's where we met. And Warren is a lawyer by trade. And, I don't really have a trade besides writing. So I can talk to anybody and he can research anything. So we were a good team. But
Right.
when we were finished with the project, I said, do you think we're still going to be friends? And he was just joking. Of course we're friends, but it was stressful, but we got through it. We did it. Yeah.
So that was your first book, A Brief History of Safety Harbor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
yeah.
that's what helped, you know, with the tour, because, you know, you gave such a good description of the town. And I lived in Safety Harbor for myself for 24 years. Actually, Laura and I were neighbors in the same neighborhood. And it is really a fascinating town. So it was wonderful that you shared that with the world, because I think a lot of people never even heard of it, because I know most of the time you just have to say near Tampa, or because nobody ever heard of Safety Harbor. But I can tell you that it is one of the most fascinating, magical places, I think. And I've traveled over 1,000,000 miles. So I was always grateful to live there.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's absolutely beautiful there. So by the water, if anybody wants to know, it's right by the water. So
we have a famous spa here, and Safety Harbor Resort and Spa.
Yeah. And they have all kinds of, you know, like you go down Main Street and there's all kinds of restaurants and little shops, and it's very quaint, but then it's also, you know, kind of large too. It's, you know, and they have music in the park and they have all kinds of things. So it's really great. And then your second book was Safety Harbor Images of America, right?
The second book was actually, well, in between that, I
get it wrong again?
I did edit and help publish a literary journal called, and we named it Odet, after Odet Philippi.
Right.
We believe his name is pronounced Odet, but a lot of people call him Odet here. But it's a French name, so the male version would have been Odet. But we named the journal after him, and we've since found out he may not have been such a great character, but that's another story.
And he's buried in the Safety Harbor, the Philippi Park.
Yeah, it's a big mystery exactly where. But we collaborated, and Warren and I, and our writers group, Amy Bryant, Carrie Granado, a lot of people from this area, and we put the call out. We got $600 a year as a kind of a grant, and we gave that as prizes. And everybody that put their poetry or their stories in, we looked at them and we made sure they were edited as well as they could be. The ones that were chosen, now we had a lot of submissions. And that's another thing, you know, just keep submitting. It was all of us in our you know, personal preferences, but there was some really good stuff that didn't get published. And we did that for 4 years. We ended up having to give that up because it became bigger than us, and we really wanted to do our own things, and we couldn't if we were continuing with this. So that was the journal. I'm sorry, what?
You did it 4 years, though. I mean, that's commendable right there. And you're right. And I always felt like that's one of the things you really did the best, is encouraging people like that. If they didn't get, you know, their submission didn't make it in the journal, but that doesn't mean it's not so good somewhere else.
Exactly.
Instead of just saying, you know, you're like that teacher said, you know, you're probably never ever get published.
Right. So we did the journal, and then I decided I wanted to write a children's book. And in the very beginning, before I published the history book, I wrote a young adult fiction. And I went through the process of finding an agent. I got a New York agent who was amazing and very patient, helped me along the way, but the book didn't sell. I was up against like Twilight and Hunger Games, and mine was historical fiction. So we didn't get anywhere with it. But I still wanted to write for children. And so I decided, my sister is an amazing artist, my sister Jennifer Tombuelt. And I said, you know, I want to write a children's book and I want you to illustrate it. And one thing about being a children's author is that you can't pick your illustrator if you are publishing like through Random House, or if you get an agent, the publisher chooses your illustrator.
Oh,
and I want that I wanted my sister to illustrate it. So we had a lot of fun doing that together, and she put so much work, and she created this character from the words that I made, and that book's called When Lourdes Was Big. And it was written to give confidence to, especially to little girls. So.
And it was priceless. The book itself, you know, and Lauren actually is taller, bigger eyes, you know, big bow. Was it a daisy in her hair? Because I went to when you
big hair.
Yes, and so it was so good because we're all unique and different, but it shows you how no matter who you are, be you and be happy being you. And I loved it that you also even did the first book signing that I went to was in the park, and we had all the kids come, and you told the story, read the story, and you know, I know I bought some for my kind of grandkids. They adopted kind of, or I adopted them, and we just loved it because I thought that was priceless that you also had a kids, you know, book signing at a park where they would be there and having fun and be attentive. So that's what I mean. Laura always like goes the extra mile and thinks like that. Because, you know, after the break, I would love to talk about some of the things you've done, even at Safety Harbor Art and Music Center. We call it Shampsy. And, you know, you just are so incredible. Creative Loafing, we can talk about then too. So everybody stay tuned because Cece, maybe, you know, now would be a good time to take our break, but then we'll come back and talk about more of the things Laura has done for not just our community here locally, but for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Do apologize for not having the name correctly on your books, but you have a tremendous amount of them on Amazon. So if anyone wants to buy the books, which we do suggest that you do that, and for a holiday and gifts and whatever, they're great books to be able to have. But there are numerous of them. So all you have to do is go to Amazon, and then of course put in Laura's name, and they'll come right up for you. So you'll be able to have them because there's several of them there. I put volumes for the one because there's several books. And then, of course, if you want to reach her directly, she'd love to hear from you. You can go to her and email her at Laura and her last name is Kepner at KEPNER@gmail.com. And then, or of course, go to her website, laurakepner.com. Again, that's LAURAKEPNER.com. So you guys are listening to the Link to Expert Author's Corner. I am Cece Schatz. I have my good friend Joanne here with me, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm John Thomas. I want to share with you a professional products and services directory we call Going Solo Directory. And you need to check this out. If you want exposure to your business or are seeking professional product or services, this directory has it all. And that membership, for the many special features, you get the benefit of a worldwide exposure with a 40-minute video interview on an international business show showcase. All this for just one low annual fee. For more information, contact GoingSoloDirectory.com.
Welcome back to Link to Expert Goodreads Author's Corner. I am Cece Schatz, just one of your hosts. I have my good friend here with me, Joanne Weiland. We are on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, and we are also on the GoingBoldMedia.com. So be sure you check out all of our wonderful hosts and guests right there on GoingBoldMedia.com. Today, we have a wonderful author here with us. We are so thankful that she's here with us, and she has tremendous amount of books. Laura Kepner, and she's a writer and author. And I'll put up just a few of her books here. So you want to make sure you check them out on Amazon.com. Very talented lady indeed. And so we want to thank you for being on our show here. So let's talk a little bit more about your life and some of the other things you've experienced that have brought out the writer in you.
Wow.
Well, I'm actually excited about the Creative Loafing because I always thought that was an incredible publication and so creative. And Laura actually won in 2019 the annual fiction contest. And I don't know, but I think Creative Loafing is in different towns all over the country, right? I mean, it's not just Tampa.
I know they're in Atlanta and Tampa. I'm not sure about anywhere else, but
for me, being what some people call woo-woo, a creative person, whatever, it's really interesting. So I feel like, that was quite the award to be awarded, Laura. So congratulations.
Thank you. It was exciting. The funny thing about that was we had to use prompts, and I rarely use, 4-letter words in my writing. I don't know. I think you can express yourself. I'm not against people doing that. It's just I don't. So I had to start it with one of those words, and I thought, oh, I can do this, But so, and I did. I won. It was really amazing. It's an honor.
Well, and speaking of props and stuff like that, I know it's the Safety Harbor Art and Music Center. You have done so many for kids of all ages. I mean, you've already, of course, taught workshops for adults, for kids, but you also like open mic nights, storytelling. I mean, I've gone to so many of your, I don't know if you call it classes or experiences is really what I would think it would be called better. And it really, really helps people, encouraging them to, like you said, that, get your toolkit out. So I was wondering, maybe we should tell people a couple of things that could help them in their toolkit, because I really feel like they don't all have a Laura Kepner in their backyard like I did to, go and learn from her directly. So I was just wondering if you want to share a couple of your tools.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'd love to. First of all, I did this all I learned before the internet. So I had to look at community colleges for classes, and they still exist. But the writers group, I believe, is your best tool in your kit. I mean, besides learning the craft, a lot of people try to jump from the desire to write a book to publishing it. I can't tell you how many self-published books I've picked up and looked at and see a typo right away. There are so many apps out there now that can help you. I heard you say something about Grammarly earlier. That's a great app for new writers, especially writers who are, I use it too. I've done this for years and I still make typos. So, I mean, there are tools out there. You just have to research them and don't get ahead of yourself. Yes, you want to publish, but present yourself the best you can in your writing. And, there are others who will support you. Now, if you join a writer's group and people are saying, this is crud, you can't, this is bad, you shouldn't even try to write. And there are groups out there who will do that to you. Leave, don't come back. Pick up all your writing that you passed around the table and just walk out, go to coffee. You don't need that. There are writers groups online. Now I'm not familiar with all of them now, but some are pay to participate, which that's okay, because then you don't have a bunch of people just on there to harass people. But there are many, many groups, especially through libraries. I did ours through a library. Open mic night. Joanna, you talked about that. An open mic night is a great place to practice sharing your words with other people out loud. And that's really hard to do. I used to, my friend Barbara Finkelstein, she was our poet laureate here, and she said, at some point, everyone's paper shakes. And what she means is you get up to the mic and you're going like this and your paper's going to shake because you're so nervous. But
Right.
those events are things that everybody understands, that we're all new at this at some point. I was teaching a lot. I've kind of cut back from that because I was teaching so much I wasn't getting my own work done. So, I may go back to opening, a writers group again, if the library in the future, if they decide they want that. But
Well, I think they will, because the librarian actually suggested I call you.
oh, good.
I don't think she thought I knew you, but yeah, so it was funny.
Oh,
So yeah, so Lisa was like, call Laura. And I'm like, oh, good idea.
And also, I just want to mention there are some amazing books out there. We're lucky here in the Tampa Bay area to have Roy Peter Clark. And he's got a book called Writing Tools that I recommend to everyone that I teach. And you can skip through it if you have a hard time with dialogue or with punctuation. He's just a fun writer who will teach it in an easy way.
Oh, good.
Anyway, yeah.
No, well, and actually, like with the open mic, just as an example, I think it helps you, like you said, with the jitters, but it also just gives you so much more confidence, because we also would help each other and make compliments. Remember, on index cards, we always said, don't say anything negative, give each other compliments, because we all need to hear what we're doing right. Because we already are all beating ourselves up of the things we know we want to get better at. And I saved all my index cards, and it really, sometimes when I was down, I would just read them.
Good. I know a lot of people who say that, and that was, boy, I ran the open mic. Ed Durkovics is now running it, and he does a great job. He has a full house every time. But yeah, because
Ed's
of that,
Shed. And he also has a podcast, Ed's Shed. He's really funny. So yes,
talented. The cards were mostly because I did hear that too. Oh, that you need to do this, or people were there to critique. And we don't need to do that all the time to others. We really don't.
Right.
And so cards were a way not just to give the reader some confidence and remember what moved others, but to teach the audience as well, the people there. And I may not have ever told you that, Joanne, but some of those people needed a lesson in being nice. And so that was
I figured that, actually, just because I really do think so, because it's sad, but most of the time as a child, they say you hear the word no, like 79% more than the word yes, or it might even be 89%. And so you're kind of taught from little on, that be, if you will, more negative than positive. So a lot of times it's just ingrained in us. So I felt like that exercise really, you're right, helped not just the writer or the presenter, but also the audience to look for the good in things.
Right.
Look for what was unique, and share that with that person.
Yeah. And, I have to say, I don't want people to think that most people that go to those are going to critique you or be mean. The problem is that if one person is there and one person does it, that's what they're going to remember for that night. They're not going to remember the applause or the compliments. They're going to remember what that one person said. So those cards, like you said, you go back and look at them. Those did. But thank you for remembering that.
Well, you've done so many things that I feel like to encourage people, to give them advice. And, it's really such a pleasure to know somebody like you, and that you do make a difference, because I feel like everybody, whenever you're starting, like climbing the ladder, like you were using that as an example, you really, a lot of times, like you said, that, you start on the first rung. But if you don't start and get on the first rung, you're never going to be able to climb. There is days that I know I feel like I climbed really long and hard, and all of a sudden I feel like I went backwards, 5 rungs or something. And, it's just part of the process. So that's what I always loved about your encouragement. Okay, so you did go back down 5 more, rungs, but that's okay. Get back on. It's going to be okay, because sometimes we maybe weren't learning something the way we needed to learn it to really have it stick. And I think what you do and did helped so many people because you also did it as a group. Like myself, I was in 3 anthology books, and each one of them became international bestsellers. But it was because we did what you do, collaborated, help each other. You know, each wrote a chapter in this incident, but then we all promoted it to our groups. And I feel like that's how we got, the international best-selling status, because we had 20 or 40, depending on which book, people out there promoting it. And that's what it's all about, collaboration. Cece and I collaborate on these shows, just as an example, as being co-hosts, because, she has so much experience in the internet, TV, podcast, radio world. I don't, but I know a lot of people that like you that I can get on the show. So it's all about, like, why don't you each use our own strengths and work together and help each other, like we are right here today, sharing then not just with each other, but the world of these ways that they can learn from people like Laura Kepner of how to be better in your writing, in your presenting, in your sharing your insights. So we really do think that that is the real key, and you do it so well. Not just be like with your sister doing the illustrations, Warren helping with the books, but I know sometimes you would do crazy things. Like, remember, wasn't it like a sidewalk poetry project we had one time? A rainy day, forget what it's called. I think rainy day sidewalk poetry, and you were just a group of us walking around the sidewalk and talking and sharing and stuff like that. So I love your creativity as well as your collaborations, and I feel like that's so key. It's so unique, and thank you.
Well, thank you. It's not always easy, finding ways to make money as a writer. If you can write articles and that kind of thing, but some months are better than others. And if you look for other opportunities to use your writing, like what you were just talking about, Joanne, it can be a really neat creative process. And for those who don't know, our city gives public art grants once in a while, maybe every year. And I received one, and I got poetry from people around Tampa Bay. And I painted the sidewalks with the poems that we chose.
Oh, that's what it was. Yes.
Yeah. And there were about 30 that were around Safety Harbor. And it also got people out. People tend to hide inside when it rains here in the Tampa Bay area. And it got people out on rainy days, which was really fun. And we walked around, and the poetry, it was painted on the sidewalk with something that you use to protect your furniture when it rains, I forget what it was called, but you can't make any mistakes. And I did make a couple mistakes that I had to turn into a flower or a little heart or something. But I would paint the words on, and it had to dry, and it was like painting with water. So it was quite more intensive than I realized. But I think most of the poetry is gone now, because it does eventually go away. But that was fun.
Did you also put it on some of the park benches at the library?
That was a different project. Yeah.
I mean, it was priceless. You sit on these park benches and you can read all these sayings and poetry. I mean, again, Laura's just very, very creative with, ways to get your writing and your poetry out there. And I think that's really key, because I think a lot of poets are creative, but they don't always know how to be creative in exposing their work.
Yeah. And the thing is when you're going and you're sharing it with the town, right? You're sharing it with the city. And so you have guests that come visit, from other areas, and they come visit, Safety Harbor or whatever, and they see this. What an inspiration that is for anyone that decides maybe they might like to write, or they're encouraged to be able to tap into that part of them. And so that's great. And then inspiring our young people, to write is huge, in this world of AI where, everything is electronic. It's important to still tap into being creative and the essence of us as an individual being able to be exposed. So that's great to be able
Well,
to
she's actually done that in the summer. You do a lot of the kids workshops at the Safety Harbor Art and Music Center. Again, we call it SHAMC for short. But I mean, so she really does, like you said, Cece, get to all different age groups, and because it really is important, because a lot of the schools now don't have art classes anymore, and it's sad because I know when my grandson went to school, they, when he was younger, he's 12 now, but they didn't, and I used to take him to art classes on purpose because I wanted that creative side to come out.
Right. And that helps them in life too. I mean, just in life in general, to be, optimistic and to be creative. And so I think that when we read poetry and when we read different books, I like some of them are informative, like yours are informative, and then others are, creative. And it's a different side of us. It's like, left brain, right brain type of thing. It's important to have that, right? To be able to do that. So yeah.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
And I know, Cece, I think you hit on it earlier with Laura's book, Images of America.
Yeah, I'll put that up because she's written so many books. So.
Do you want to talk about that one, Laura, before we?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Those are those little books. You see them like in Walgreens. They're local histories for, like my book on Safety Harbor. Probably, unless you visited Safety Harbor, you may not pick that up. But it's a book for people who visited or for residents, and they're throughout the country. It seems like every major city has at least one. And Safety Harbor is not a major city, but we have such a great history.
Mm-hmm.
We recently learned that this is probably the place. Well, it is. It's been proven that Ponce de Leon landed. So even before St. Augustine or anywhere else, he died right after. So he didn't get to establish a camp, but he landed here. So things like that have to be shared. It's and we have so many photos that I have come across that if we don't publish them, if we don't share them, they're going to be lost. So many of those old early 1900s photos are just gone, and I know they exist, but I haven't been able to find them. So,
right.
This was a way to share all of these photos and a little blurb about them. I had a limit to my words, which was difficult, but there are, I think, 200 photos in it.
Wow. Congratulations. And it reminds me of a story that I heard about Safety Harbor, just as an example, when he did land and this huge ship came into the harbor at Safety Harbor. So you would think all the Native Americans would have seen it and, if you will, freaked out. Well, they didn't. They didn't even notice it. And what happened was the chief actually saw the water move differently in the bay. And that has been such a big life lesson for me, because so many times when there's something new, just like Cece, when you were new in radio, then in, podcasting, and then on internet TV, just in this example, you think everybody sees it and would see like the big ship, like, oh my God. But when they're not used to seeing something, they don't see it. And it's interesting to know that, don't give up, because if you do have something new and creative, don't give up just because they didn't see the big ship, because they will eventually, but it just takes a while because they were used to little canoes. And I always just loved that story. I don't know if I'm telling it properly, but I just always thought that was amazing.
I've never heard that story. It's cool, but I've never heard it. Yeah.
I think I learned it at the Safety Harbor Museum, and they talked about it. And I just thought that was fascinating. How could you not see that big ship, And so, but the chief saw the water was moving differently, probably, of course, from the ship coming in. But I just, that helped me, just because when we are unique and creative, sometimes nobody sees it, and you feel like, you're crazy, but keep going, and, they'll eventually see your ship.
That is great. That is a great story. I wonder if it was because maybe there's so much more trees and things like that than what we have now, Now we clear the path so we can see the water.
No, I was there where they saw it. There was no trees, but maybe there was then too, Cece. That's a good point. So, but
Yeah.
either way, don't give up with your idea like Cece did 12 years ago. So thank you.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a long time ago. I thought this was full of bloopers, this one. So yeah, awesome. Well, it is a joy to meet you in person, and it's great to these books and your latest book, the children's book, When Lourdes Was Big. The pictures are just
Yeah,
astounding.
get a copy for your grandkids or your kids.
Yeah.
You'll love it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to go to her website, which is Laura Kepner. It's at Laura, and then the last name is KEPNER.com. And of course, it's her email is Laura.E.Kempner, KEPNER @gmail.com. So if you want to send her a message or an email and let her know that you saw her on the show, we would love for you to do that. But her books are just wonderful, and you can find them right there on Amazon.com. So don't hesitate to be able to Google her name there right there on the Amazon, and they'll come up. There's tons of them, so they'll come up. So
thank you so much. And if you have a local bookstore, I'd love for you to go in and order from there. Local stores really need to be supported. But
yeah, because you're on Pokey and stuff. Yes.
Yeah, and that's for everything. So if you ever need a book, try to go to your local store because you want to help them be able to buy the books there. So that's a good point to say. I mean, we always go to Amazon for everything, and it is easy. So if you want to go there, you go there. But the point is, we want to help out our local business.
Absolutely.
So yeah, definitely go check out your local store. And the other thing is, you're going to find something along the way that some other creative writer or someone else that's going to catch your eye. So you definitely want to do that. Thank you so much, Laura. It is so great.
Thank you. It's been fun. I really appreciate this.
We appreciate you. So thank you so much. Well, we're going to have to close down the show. You guys are listening to Link to Expert Goodreads Authors Corner. I am Cece Schatz. I have my good friend here, Joanne Weiland, with me. We are on the GoingBoldMedia.com on WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We hope that you'll tune in next week for another great show. Talk to you later. Bye for now.